Good evening, everyone. How's it going? Caleb, hello. Nathan Vanderberg, how's it going? We've got George Wright. Stephen. Isidore. And Hal Haggis, how's it going, everyone? I have to keep reminding myself it's actually Saturday, not Sunday. How's everyone's day been? It's been nice and sunny actually for once in the UK. So hopefully, like the past couple of streams, we've had issues with lag through OBS. I've changed a couple of things, so hopefully we shouldn't really have that issue this evening. I've had a pretty chill day today, just finishing stuff off. We've got a video coming up tomorrow, which is the beginner Skaven if you haven't seen. So what I thought we'd do today is start working on the Chaos Warriors. And what we're actually going to do is plan the colour scheme. Oh yeah, Stephen, you're now a moderator. So you can now sort comments out. I don't exactly know how it works. But you should be able to delete comments, like silly comments we've had in the past couple of streams. Which is useful because I can't actually do anything myself from OBS. But obviously if you don't want to, you don't want to. There's no pressure. As well, obviously make sure for everyone watching, if you got questions, that's what I'm here for. I'm happy to answer any questions you've got. So I've had these for a while now, since last year, like literally like a year now. So I've been working on. It's the Vanguard box for Age of Sigmar that I'm using. So I've got 10 warriors. I've got 5 warriors of chaos and I've got the chariot. And we're going to be working out a colour scheme for them and maybe trying a bit out today. They're a bit dark. Yeah, okay. Al Haggis, yeah, makes me want to buy some Skaven, as if my pile of shame wasn't big enough. The Skaven weren't too bad to paint, to be honest. I haven't painted the whole of the starter set in the video, just because there's quite a lot in the box to paint. Ed, hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, so I've been meaning to try and get this started on these, so I thought we'd use this stream. Steven says, have you decided against doing an old world chaos video? I haven't yet. I think what I'm going to do is I'll paint these with the intention of it not being a video, but I will film it and see how I go. And then probably by the end of it, I'll have enough of the video to do enough footage to do a video anyway. I just don't know. I don't have a lot of motivation to paint these at the minute, but I do. But I'm not like excited. I just want to get them sort of painted. But maybe doing a video might help with that. But I don't have any space to do a video for them. Let me know if you get any lag. I'm getting a bit. I don't know how to fix it. I've done a few bits, but I think it might just be my internet, because there's not really a lot I can do on my end. I think it's just OBS. Isidore, always nice to see others paint a minis for the world that once was. Me as personally finding opponents for TOW is a challenge on its own. Also, I just finished my 1500 point Dwarfs army today, actually. Oh, well done. Yeah, I think my next so I've got my Night Goblins army. I want to finish this Warriors of Chaos army. And I think my next army, I either want to do Empire or Dwarfs. So, yeah, I think as the stream goes on, maybe OBS might catch up with itself. I've deleted a few bits like overlays that I thought might have been slowing things down. Because we never had this problem before. I sort of introduced new overlays. One thing I did actually want to do, saying that, I've got an image. So this here, for some reason, like this is how they painted the Slaves of Darkness. Very early on in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, with like the black and red, and the Chaos Knights are still painted like this, but they recently went to like a more of a silver color mainly for the Warriors of Chaos. But they don't have any good pictures of the black and red, and this is the color scheme I want to do. Yeah, it probably is 2 cameras. What I might do is I might knock the stream down to 720 if there's problems today, but hopefully not. Yeah, so this is like the color scheme that I kind of want to do my warriors today. I'll work towards, because I always like this color scheme. This is always going to be like the color scheme that I wanted to do, and I think this is going to be a lot easier to do than the silver. Because if I chose to do the silver color scheme, then I wouldn't really be able to do it in contrast paints. And the reason I'm doing contrast paints is just quicker to do. So yeah, that's like the main color scheme. Like the red material and the black armor with gold trim and the silver details. And then we'll talk about how I come up with colour schemes as well. And sort of talk about the order that I would paint things in, because it's a bit different with contrast paints as it would be for your general acrylic paints. But I think an army for this, for Old World, would look quite nice. Because I think I've come up with a list. So I'm going to be having 5 Chaos Knights, 20 Chaos Warriors in a unit. I've got a Chariot, a Demon Prince, a Sorcerer Lord on a Manticore, 3 Dragon Ogres and a Howl Cannon. So it's not a big list. And there's not going to be a lot to paint, so it should be good. Black and red is the only correct Warriors of Chaos colour scheme. Yeah, I agree. The silver, if I wasn't going to use contrast paints, I probably would try and work out just the general silver colour, so I can just do sort of washes. Yeah, I've looked on the web store. It's just for the Chaos Warriors, really. I have had a look. I kind of generally know the ideas of the colours and stuff that I want. Because the biggest thing is just looking at what details there are to paint and just deciding what colours to paint them. So I've got what we're going to do is I have got just a spare rat ogre that I didn't use for the video, so we'll be trying out some mixes on this guy just to make sure we're happy with the colours. So we'll do that in a bit. We're using a new pad. NJ, hey man, just want to say thank you for your videos. I finished my first Ultramarines Combat Patrol using your guides. That's brilliant. I'm glad. I've got a nice collection of Ultramarines myself now after doing the all the videos. I've still got a few bits that I want to paint for them for future videos. But there, I'll probably save some Ultramarines for later this year. I'm kind of wondering if Emperor's Children are going to be announced for pre-order tomorrow, for next week. Because that might change my plans. How I guess really fancy the Maggotkin. You really fancy the Maggotkin Spearhead. Love me Nurgle. They're so fun to paint. Yeah, the Maggotkin are really nice. I like the Blight. Is it Blight Lords? The Nurgle the Nurgle Chosen Chaos Warriors are really, really nice. PB&J 40k, hello, welcome to the stream. Has everyone been doing some hobby this weekend? Oh, one thing I wanted to say, and I'll bring this up later as well. Today I've added a channel membership tier for £3.99, which is £1 cheaper than it was before. Now there's still 2 tiers open because I can't just edit the current tier to be cheaper. So what I've done is I've created the cheaper tier anyway, and I'll just encourage people to sort of get the cheaper tier if they want to. And most likely eventually I'll probably just remove that more expensive tier. It just sort of brings it in line with the Patreon prices. So the channel membership tier sort of matches the middle tier on Patreon. Because there are a few perks that you don't get on the £2 Patreon, which will come into play later this year, hopefully, with extra streams and other things that I've got planned. So it's just matching that price, because I didn't really want to make things more complicated with the channel membership by having multiple tiers here as well. So I've just sort of matched the middle tier for Patreon. So if you are a channel member, just have a look at that. I have posted, I did do a post about it earlier as well. Tomorrow evening is when the beginner scathing video is coming out, so make sure you're ready for that. I never knew if I want to ever do a premiere for the videos. I don't think they're really. What do you guys think of premieres for videos? See, the problem I have with premieres is when you start a premiere, when it starts, you're kind of stuck in that half an hour to watch it. I feel like it discourages people to come and watch the video anyway, so they'll have to come back later. I just feel like it affects the views. That's why I never really do a preview. I used to, and I know you can have a live chat as the video happens. It's just a weird one. Georgie boy, hello, welcome to the stream. I heard rumours, not sure if true, that the Indeed will be released tomorrow, and I already reserved mine through a reseller friend of mine. Yeah, so I will be doing some Emperor's Children tutorial. Well, I'll be doing at least one anyway. But I'm not going to be getting the army box because I don't really want to. I'm probably not going to paint all the miniatures. But it does mean that if the army box is out in a couple of weeks or 3 weeks time, because it'll probably be 2 week It'll be a 2-week I can't even remember now. Well, I'll be out in about 3 weeks time, but I'm not going to get the box because I'm probably only going to be painting about 3 miniatures for a video. So I'll just wait until they're released as a kit individually, which probably won't be, it'll probably be a couple of weeks after, like they did with the Krieg miniatures. So hopefully, so what, March, April time, you should get an Emperor's Children tutorial from me. But it's got me interested in the other Chaos specific legions. So I'm thinking about doing like the Berserkers, Thousand Suns, and an updated Death Guard video. So I'll do the 4 Chaos Gods. At the minute, I kind of want to do them one after the other, but I may take a break in between and do things, but I will get the 4 Chaos Gods done this year. Big Uncle, man, your workspace is way too clean. This isn't my general workspace. This is what I set up for the stream, so it doesn't usually look like this. And this is a new mat that I bought a couple of weeks ago. George Wright, premieres are okay for a special video, but for every video it feels a bit unnecessary, just my opinion. Yeah, I think you might be right there. If it's I think if it's like I'd probably have to like do a good promotion for the video that it's going to be a premiere. If it's like a special occasion, I think you're right there. As a viewer, I don't think anything a premiere sometimes convinces me to watch immediately versus saving for later. Go for it painting, welcome to the stream, hello. Yeah, I always think Michael's workspace is almost surgically clean. Mine looks like a bomb has went off. I always try and keep the workspace clean in the videos just because I think it doesn't look very appealing. Stephen, don't make me repaint my Death Guard. You might have to. I don't know how different it'll be. I think I'm gonna see with the 4 Chaos Legion videos. I'll probably do it in the same style as I've been doing with the chapter videos, where I'll do a beginner version, a box art version, and an alternative style version. So the Berserker might do like a metallic scheme, like I did with the Ultramarines. With Death Guard, I'll probably do a contrast version in the green. Thousand Suns, I haven't thought too much about those. I wouldn't mind doing a retro scheme for the Thousand Suns, or probably a metallic version. And I don't even know what I'm doing for the Emperor's Children. The Emperor's Children video is going to be quite fun to do, because looking at all the different effects, what I might do is I'll probably do a standard video with like the beginner version, a box art version, a contrast version, or a metallic version, whichever. And then I might do like an extra video trying to do a lot of the cool stuff I've seen already, like the marble style armor, and painting like the vials with the weird galaxy spirals in them. I think that'd be a really good a video to try and attempt to do. So there is potential to do 2 videos for the Emperor's Children. Just depends how much I enjoy painting them. But they do look like amazing miniatures. I just can't see myself painting an army of them. So that's why I'll wait until they'll come out individually, rather than paying for the army box. Let's get started then. So again, I'm going to be trying to figure out how to paint these in a black and red scheme. So the first thing we need to do is just decide what details need to be painted. And already I know for these guys, the first details you're probably going to want to paint, especially with contrast, are like horns and skulls and other sort of bone coloured decorations. Go for it, painting. Thank you very much for saying that. Yeah, guys, make sure you can leave a like on these live streams as well. And I think you can emote as well with like the little heart and leave a comment. Stephen, I have it in my head that I want to paint a Yandrasta. Was researching the silvery paint scheme on the Evi archive. Yandrasta, is that the Age of Sigmar character? You'll have to remind me which character that is, because I've probably seen it. If ever you come in, so one thing I always like to do, especially before doing a painting video, I always make sure to write down how I'm going to paint it, because it actually speeds up the process. Because you kind of go in prepared with a plan. And I've said it in a couple of videos as well. You're not sort of sat there umming and ahhing. Oh yeah, I know who you mean now, Stephen. It's the character that came in the last edition of Age of Sigmar, the box. I've got that miniature. The armor, I think the armor's just a Liberated Gold and Stormhost Silver mix. I don't think it's that complicated, to be honest, because I think I had a look as well. But yeah, I have painted it. It's just, it's before I started the channel, I painted mine. Dusty787, I just got back into 40k after 10 years of being away from it. I saw your tutorials, love your work. Can the Citadel airbrush paint be used as a primer to undercoat, or is the spray can the only way? So I wouldn't use the airbrush paints for like undercoating your miniatures or priming your miniatures. What you want, if you are going to go straight to the plastic, then you want to use paints with the red splatter. So these are base paints. Oh, the stream did not like me moving that quickly. Hang on. Are we back? Let it catch up. Okay, so make sure you use a pot with the red splatter. So if you're doing ultramarines, you use McCrag Blue, for example. And you can see this in my painting your first miniatures video. But you can do it. But there is a bit of a technique. So go watch my painting your first miniatures video. And I'll talk about how to brush paint straight onto the plastic. It's not ideal, but if you can't really use sprays or don't have the space or an area to spray with, then it's understandable. But I know there's companies out there who have products that are brush-on primers. So for like Vallejo, for example, I think Army Painter probably has one. So have a look into those as well. I think they might be worth looking at. I'm not sure if I can do anything right now to stop this lag. Have I got anything else running? That's really frustrating. Goji, you helped me a lot with your video on painting Chaos Legions, thank you, but I'd love to see you paint some of the Red Corsairs in the future. It's difficult to get really specific with something like that, because obviously I'll get a lot of requests for Space Marine chapters as well. Hang on, let me just turn this camera off. Yeah, let's just try it out with the face cam. I'm not sure. It's only a recent thing that this is causing a problem. Give me 1 second. I will be right back. I'm just trying to get rid of all of the anything I might not be using. Okay, I'm about to go to the end screen, but I'm not ending the stream, so I'm just gonna, I just need to go in there to delete some of the overlays. Okay, we'll give that a few minutes to maybe hopefully sort itself out. But I just remember when we first started doing the hobby hangout, we never had this issue before. So it might just be when I included some overlays. So hopefully that might sort itself out. But we'll leave the face cam off for a little bit. So I do apologise. Big Uncle Games Workshop used to have a brush on primer that came in a regular size pot. I do remember that. And that's kind of what the red splatters are. Because you'll see a lot of the precursors for a lot of the current sort of different types of paints. A cringe detector. Well, that was a lovely stream. I haven't gone anywhere, don't worry. Dusty787 will do. I have an airbrush, so I was just wondering if that was an option to undercoat with, but I have no issue using rattle cans. My army is Grey Knights that I'm working on currently. Oh, okay. Yeah, if you've got an airbrush, then you've definitely got access to primers you can use. Just not necessarily Games Workshop. But I wouldn't use the airbrush paints from Citadel to undercoat your miniatures, because they're not likely to stick to the plastic very well. So we'll just carry on. So when you're painting with contrast paints, you're gonna tend to work from lightest to darkest. So the lightest colour that you're probably going to start with, besides white, but there isn't really much white on here, is probably going to be a bone colour. So Don't worry if you can't see this. But I've already got like a pre-mix that I've made for the Night Goblins. And this is thinned down with Lamy Medium. So it's, rather than being very strong, it just gives a very sort of light tone of bone. Oh, this lag is really frustrating. Hopefully it sorts. Hopefully it's temporary. We'll keep going. We'll keep going. Andy, hello. Welcome to the stream. How's it going? So I'll show you. We'll use the Rat Ogre, and I'll show you. So one of the other contrast paints you're likely to thin down is flesh. So we'll just try this. So you can see how light that is. As a contrast paint already. That's why you want to start with this first. Because if you go darker first, this isn't going to cover any mistakes up. So it's likely that you're going to finish up with the black armor. Because the black's obviously going to cover up the other colours. Now for the fur, it's also probably going to be like a brownish creamy colour. So I want to try out Skeleton Horde or Snakebite Leather. Again, we're not going to do this on the Warriors just yet. This is what I've got the Ogre for. Medieval Gaming, have I ever painted a Raptor Space Marine? I haven't. I know the Raptors are really popular at the moment because of the Space Marine 2 trailer. It's very likely I might cover some of the chapters in that video. But the Astartes 2 animation isn't actually due out until next year. So I feel like I'll let everybody sort of get their tutorials out of the way now. And I'll do mine closer to when the actual series is out. But I've always liked the size of the Emperor, and I like the colour scheme for the Raptors. But I'll likely do a tutorial for those closer to the time when Astartes 2 actually comes out. When the hype is big again. So this is Snakebite Leather. I think that's a bit too dark for me. Andy, I've got Rat Ogres and Rats to do. Picked up Death Riders today, so I'll be priming some tomorrow. Yeah, the Skaven video comes out tomorrow evening, which might be able to help. So I'm going to try the Skeleton Horde now, just to sort of compare. And this Skeleton Horde isn't thinned down at all. And the thing I like about contrast paints as well is if you spread them out a bit, they sort of go down lighter anyway. Whereas if you pull it up, you can make it darker just in the way you apply it. So I think actually I quite like this colour just for the fur on there. You could go fancy as well, because I know sometimes you get like a gradient on the fur. You could do that and have both colours and sort of blend it. So these will still be quite wet, so you can just sort of mix them up in the middle. And it doesn't have to be fancy either, but that's an option. So it would get the lighter sort of points of the fur, sort of like more closer to the shoulders, will be lighter, and it'll get darker as you get around the bottom. But that's also an option. So there are two colours that work well together, and you could even mix the two colours. So if we try mixing the two colours, Nathan Vanderberg, have I ever done a video on bases, like the more intricate versions? A bases video is on my list to do. I just don't know how to do it. Because I don't really do a lot for my own bases personally. They're usually very simple. But I need to decide how I want that to look. Because one of the options for doing a basing video is to explore the different like technical paints that Games Workshop do, for example. Or it could be how to do like a display base. Exploring the texture paints is probably more fitting towards the channel, but a second video could be sort of building on top of that, and maybe you could use like different materials like slate and cork and stuff like that. But I would have to do some experimenting for myself first before I was able to teach you guys, because it's something I don't do a lot of personally anyway, so I can't expect myself to teach you guys what I don't do. So probably getting about 50-50 mix of both Snakebite Leather and Skeleton Horde. Again, you can do, even if you haven't got a spare model, you get loads of spare pieces for your kits. So you can always clip all those off and spray those as well and test this out. I think if we put a bit more, make that a bit lighter. Now you've got like the three sort of colours. So this one is Snakebite Leather, Skeleton Horde, and this is your 50-50. I quite like the 50-50, to be honest. Because there may be details that we do Skeleton Horde, like straight Skeleton Horde anyway. So you want those details to be different colours, obviously. So like the wraps, I'm not sure what colour I want to do the wraps on the weapon handles yet. Whether that's going to be red or a bone colour. It depends if I want to keep the red to the materials or not as just sort of an accent colour. Stephen, I don't believe any of those clips are actually in Astartes 2. It seems like it might be Death Watch, and those are the origin stories. Oh. Well, I need to do a Death Watch video anyway. But I think people would really enjoy Size of the Emperor and Raptor video anyway. Just after the trailer. Even if they're just sort of like a quick appearance in the show, because I know they're like a old school Space Marine, so you're probably right. How haggis? I've never really used contrast paints. I do have a part of the contrast medium for making glazes, and I make good use of it. Yeah, the contrast medium is actually quite good. So the difference between Lamy medium and the contrast medium for me is that the contrast medium dries quicker. So with the Lamy medium, we tend to have a bit more time to work with. That's the only difference I've found with the two. How about a list of basing schemes used across the core armies in the Games Workshop range? Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. So doing like your... just covering the basic schemes. So like snow, urban, sort of a desert colour, sort of like those. But nothing fancy. Something that's achievable for an army. Nathan Vanderberg. Well, I'll absolutely be looking forward to it if it does happen. I bet you can make some wicked cool bases. Yeah, I think I need to explore doing bases a bit more anyway. So there's a few sort of non-painting tutorials that I would kind of like to approach this year. I think it's about time I did a dedicated glazing video. It's hard to talk about glazing in such a small spot in each video and hope and get it across to people. And you can use glazing for a whole range of things as well. I think we're quite good. So yeah, I think we'll go for a mix for the fur. So we don't forget, I'm going to write this down. So the bone colour, obviously, thinned mix. Furs is going to be skeleton plus snake mix. Another detail that's on these guys that I see a lot of are like little stone runes. So I think we're just going to go basically silicanum grey for those and just treat them like stone. So we'll just put rune trinkets. Silicanum grey. So I think they're all like the small details that'd be quite good to get out of the way first. And I think the next step after those will be to paint the material and the capes, because they're quite difficult to get to. But it shouldn't be too bad, because obviously these are going to be, the armor's going to be black, so it's going to cover up any mistakes quite easily. Cringe detector. I took your advice painting my Gretchen using Scarsonic green, but I have trouble highlighting with Ogren camo. Could you give tips on highlighting, especially in raised areas like the shoulder blades? The Ogren camo, you're gonna have trouble. It's not really going to show up on Scarsonic green. If I said Ogren camo, I told you wrong. I would use this for orc skin after doing orc flesh. So I would use that to highlight that as a main highlight colour. But for Scarsonic, you're probably going to need... You can tell I haven't used these in a while. I'll probably use Krieg Khaki. Be highlights. And when you're highlighting sort of like curved edges, I'm going to be honest with you. you don't, it's not an exact science where you put those line highlights. As long as you've got some on there around the edges, after you've done a few, it's going to look right anyway. Because if you don't know where they should be, then people looking at your miniature won't know where they should be either. And I can tell you, when you look at, say, like my Gretchen, some of my highlights don't make sense, but just the fact that they're there, it works. And you don't need to do loads. So if you've got like a we'll use this. Do you know what? I've got no brushes. I've had to throw a lot away because they're about 6 months old. Oh, we're gonna have to struggle with the start. Oh no, I can't use a starter brush. Right, I've got a medium layer. What colour can I use? Doesn't really matter. Let's just use this. George, right, I'm glad you do this planning for your videos so that I don't have to. Do you know what? It's one of my favourite parts of doing a video. Because it's a nice challenge to attempt something I haven't done before. It's nice just doing a bit of the research. And then seeing it all come together at the end is just more satisfying. So for example, you've got an ankle here. I don't know how well you can see it. Again, I'm sorry. Just because it's quite a light base colour, it's going to be difficult to pick up. But you've got an ankle here. So the obvious thing to do is just paint a line around the edge of it. And it may not make any sense in the actual, in reality, but it'll make sense on your miniature. So when you come to do your highlights, if you kind of think to yourself, well, a line highlight makes sense to go there, then go for it. So just on this knee as well, it's just, you can tell they're sort of faint edges. They're just sort of very soft edges. And that's where you want to put those line highlights. So there's no right or wrong, and you don't even need loads, especially for curved and soft features. So like on the ball of his foot, so there's like a recess in the middle. So you'll just go along that recess. And again, the edge of the foot. And then obviously these wrinkles, you'll treat it like material in a way. You'll paint like the raised recesses. Again, go along the recesses, go along the edges. Where you think it should be, just go for it. And if it doesn't look right once you've finished, you can always go back in with your Scarsnet green and just knock those edges off as well. And I find myself doing that. I'll always go back, especially if it's for skin. I'll go back and I'll say to myself, does that highlight really look good? And if it doesn't, I'll just paint over it. Which is worth doing. But just do what you think you should be doing to start with. And as I say, when you've finished highlighting everything, then go back and critique where those highlights are. And then you can redo them if you feel like you need to. And that's how I approach it. If that makes sense. I still need that. I don't need that. Juan, maybe it's more art than science, like at painting a picture. Yeah, I agree. Funnily enough, painting miniatures is kind of both. So you have to think practically and artistically. But at the end of the day, just look at it and go objectively, does it look good? Am I happy with it? If the answer is yes, then you don't really need to change anything. Because you can't come along with a checklist and go, does it match these criterias because it's different for everybody. Al-Haggis, what you're saying about the highlighting is kind of what I learned at art school. If you're going to fine art, shadows and highlights have to be correct, but in illustration, just do what looks good. Yeah, exactly. Because fine art, it's realistic painting, whereas illustration, it's graphic. And that's what painting miniatures is, it's a graphic style. You can go realistic with miniatures and you'll drive yourself crazy trying to do it. Because the problem when painting 3D miniatures or objects is you can only work with, you have to have your object source lighting basically. I'll cover this, I sort of talk about it a little bit in my Dante video when I'm doing non-metallic metal. You kind of, with non-metallic metal, you have to artificially create those, the sources of light, and you basically do it at the four corners. So if you say that's your miniature, you'd have two in the rear and two at the front. Because obviously if you're moving your miniature around, those points of light have to follow that miniature around. And that's where it gets complicated. Whereas Games Workshop have created this style where it doesn't matter where you look on the miniature, because those highlights are designed just to sort of bring out the features of the miniature. They're not meant to look realistic. It's when you place it on a table a foot away from you and think, I can't really see the detail anymore, that you realise you need more highlights. Yes, absolutely. The highlights are there to bring out those details so you can see it at arm's length. Because if you don't do your highlights, everything's just gonna blend together. We did a highlighting stream last time and we should have talked about all this. Haggis, I'd say painting minis is more illustrative than realism. I agree, absolutely. Again, there are people out there who will paint miniatures to be realistic, but they tend to be bust size. So, rather than this size. Daniel Bake, do you consider using acrylic markers as cheating? No. To be honest with you, the whole game is about cheating. What would you consider not cheating, to be fair? You have to go to the source and whoever painted the first miniature. Again, it's not about this is how things should be or this is the checklist. Just as miniature, have you followed the exact right methods to paint this miniature? I have seen that acrylic markers are quite new to the market. And I know there are a few companies that have bought them out recently. I know of them and I'm really interested in looking at them. But it's not cheating. I'm interested in seeing them, especially when it comes to like scale modeling. I think that'd be brilliant, because not everyone, it's like you can get you can get paint markers already. They'll think they're just I'm not sure the brand, they're like black, they're like Polka, I'm not sure the name. But artists and illustrators have been using markers for a long time. You look at the alcohol-based markers. So it was only a matter of time before someone sort of had the idea to bring them into miniature painting. Exactly, Stephen. There's no such thing as cheating. In fact, the whole idea is to find out how to cheat. Calrash, I'm having trouble choosing the right amount of water for the thin coat. It always seems to add too much or not enough. Do you have a rule of thumb? Posca markers, thank you, George. Right, yeah, Posca markers. They've been around for a long time. And you could probably use Posca markers on your miniatures. It's just, I think the only restriction for markers is detail work. So if you're able to sort of get a paint pen that is like a fine, with fine nibs and tips, then you are away. I know there's people who say you could use a black fine liner to do highlights, and they probably have. But again, it's just what can you do with what's already out there and how restrictive is it? That's going to be your only issue. When it comes, so thinning your paint, we'll use the ogre again. And we'll use some Crag Blue this time. So my rule of thumb is generally the same amount of water as paint. And you can usually sort of have a look when the paint's on the palette as well. So this is about an equal mix. No, it's probably a little bit more. And what you find, especially if you working, say, on like a white palette or a light palette, because the paint will be slightly transparent, and it's just the way the paint moves around. Where should we do this? I still need to do it on here. But again, it's not, there's no exact science, because every paint's different as well with the amount of pigment in it. Sometimes you may need less water, or you might need more water. And really, you can't. The only time you can have too thin of a paint if it becomes a wash. But it's all practice. So basically, you want a little bit of transparency in the paint. Because when you let that dry, you'll want to go over it again with another layer. But generally, I would say about an equal amount of water is the right amount. Is that the case all the time? No. Everybody's different. But you'll get to learn how you work as you paint more. But being new and starting out, that's a good place to start with an equal amount. And then you might find that you like thinner paint and doing more layers. Or you might find you like thicker paint and having to work less. It's totally up to you. I've discovered with your 3 years old, I think, video on Orc Warboss, amazing quality. Oh, the Orc Warboss, yeah, that's still one of my favourites in the Mega Armour. Hopefully that sort of explains it. If the paint, you want the paint to be a little bit transparent, basically. Enemy T, man, these models have really held up. Are these the old sculpts still? The Rat Ogre, no, this is with the new edition. These guys, I think these were done for the first edition of Age of Sigmar, I think. So they're still like 10 years old. But there was a point where Games Workshop's miniatures just sort of became timeless, I think. Calrash, if you're using a wet palette, it shouldn't change how you thin your paint. It just keeps your paint, because if you didn't use a wet palette, your paint evaporates and the water escapes, whereas a wet palette just keeps that water in, but it doesn't add water to the paint already. Unless you've got water sitting on top of your wet palette already, which you shouldn't have. But generally, if you're using a wet palette, you still need to thin your paints. George Wright, I've been down the brush tip rabbit hole with alcohol markers recently. Made me think about using acrylic markers for minis, but I think I would much prefer the control of a brush. Yeah, I think there's going to be a time and place for it. So if you're doing a tank, it might be quicker and easier to get a marker out and do all those edge highlights, for example, rather than using it to highlight loads of Space Marines. It just depends how big the miniature is. And I think eventually people will figure out the best way to use them, and I'm sure that knowledge will be put out there on the internet. Where were we? Okay, so we know we're going to be doing like the horns and bones and skulls and stuff with the thinned mix. The furs are going to be the skeleton and snakebite mix. The rune trinkets that are basically stone are going to be basilicanum grey. The material, I don't know if I want. So when it came to the squigs, I did two separate layers. So I did a layer of one colour and then I did a layer of another colour. But I want to see if I can just mix the colours. Because I feel because with the material you don't want it to be too patchy. And when you apply a lot of layers, it tends to get a bit more patchy, especially with different colours. I feel like you reduce that chance when you mix the contrasts together. Yeah, what I'm thinking with the markers is, so with the alcohol-based markers you get now for illustrating and graphics, you get a brush nib, which is it's not a brush, but it's a flexible sort of rubber. But you also get like a hard tip as well. So I'm wondering if you'll be able to get something like that eventually. I need to get a new bowl red. I've never had to replace any of my contrast paints yet. And I think I'm about to have to replace some of my reds after doing all the squigs. Okay, so this is going to be a mix. I just want to see how it goes down. Because I know the bowl red as a contrast paint is thicker anyway because it's a single pigment contrast. Remember, we're going to be highlighting these colours as well, so well, that's if you want to do highlight. I know I'm going to be highlighting, but I'm only going to be doing single highlights. Basically, my goal here is how easy can I make my life, and how quickly can I paint these Chaos Warriors, but still make them look really good. So we'll let that dry. Because I think the two main colours on the Chaos Warriors that are going to be really important are the black and the red. So I want to make sure I get this right. For some reason that's quite thin. Shake it up. Everyone might be interested. This year I might do a grim dark style tutorial, because I know how I'd know how I would do it now. But that might be, what month are we now? So we're just leaving February. So that might be end of May, early June video. Okay, yeah, so I had an issue. Just make sure to shake your contrast paints, everybody. So this is a mix. After I've shaken the contrast paints up. So just ignore that first bit. I quite like that. I'm wondering if I might have to use a second coat. It's probably likely. I'll let that dry. So why don't we start painting one? Paint that one. Paint this one. See, on this one, what you've got with the fur, you've got these sort of plain patches, which ideally you're going to be painting a flesh colour. And I'm just wondering if that flesh colour wants to go down before the brown. Because the brown's going to cover up the flesh colour, but the flesh colour isn't going to cover up the brown. So your flesh colour is going to go down first. The Big M, your tutorials are great. Thank you, thank you. I love the name Big M. That's what they used to call me. They didn't really. Wish they did. But thank you. I appreciate that. I want to put my face cam on. Let's try my face cam and ruin everything. Hello. I'm just not going to do any fast movement. I think it might be to do with zooming in and out as well. Might not be helping. But I'll definitely try and get to the bottom of it. But let's just see how this works. I just like the face on just because it's better. It just feels more relatable than me not being on the screen. So yeah, let's try. So we're gonna need a flesh color. Do I have a flesh color? Oh no, I'm moving about. Let's move slowly. Not upset the pixels. Didn't realise I had one of those. I've been trying to look for. So this is Agrelin Badland, which is like a brown texture paint for the bases. I thought I only had the grey one. Move slowly again. Okay. Gulliman's Flesh is my go-to. You do have Fire Slayer Flesh and a Darko Flesh. But again, we want to keep it simple. But if you do want variations in your flesh or your skin, just use the different tones that are available. I do think this is... So what I was saying about earlier is that you can affect the strength of the contrast by how much you apply. I almost did this off camera, I forgot I was actually streaming. Okay. So this is without it being thinned. It's quite brown and reddish. And with this, I'm sort of spreading it out. So I'm not being too heavy with it, just because I want a lighter tone with it. Let's see what it looks like thinned down. So usually when I'm doing this for my videos, it'll probably take me a couple of hours and I'll do this as I write the script for my videos. I'll sort of like have all like spare bits and stuff ready to go, because obviously I don't use all the miniatures in the box all the time, so I'll have those built up and painted as well, just to try different things, just to make sure I'm happy with it, especially if I haven't painted it before. Obviously I don't need to do that if I'm doing another like Ultramarines video, for example, because I've done that multiple times already. Yeah, I'm testing my cosmetics on the lab rat. So this is with its thinned down. And this is with contrast medium. So you can see the difference it's made. What we'll do actually as well, we'll do it where you can be quite heavy with the contrast paint as well. There'll be a good space. So you got a patch here. So you can be quite heavy, so you can sort of blob it down and then draw it over. So again, you can see like you've got 3 different tones just from one contrast. And 2 of them I haven't even thinned down with the contrast medium. So this is applied quite heavily. It's going to be darker in the recesses as it dries. I find so it's just thinking like what color would work with the brown, and conveniently you've got the brown here. Sebastian, welcome to the channel. Thank you for subscribing if you're here in the stream. And personally, I think just like the first attempt be quite good, because it's going to be quite a dark color anyway, so you want a nice contrast. I think the flesh, this lighted sort of color here when it's thinned down, might be lost with the darker brown, because again we're going to be highlighting these, so it is going to look a little bit lighter once it's highlighted as well. I think if we had something like that just for the actual skin, because I think the Chaos Warriors, whenever there is a head, they are going to be quite pale. So I think that'll be quite good just for general sort of skin on the Chaos Warriors. But I think for fur, like the fur skin, which you'd assume would be quite dry anyway when it's more leather than skin, it's going to be a little bit darker. So I think just using the Guilliman flesh would be quite good. And then, but we'll have to be careful how we apply it. Are you guys working on anything? If you're working on anything, let me know. If you've joined recently, you didn't know, tomorrow evening is my Skaven tutorial. Do you know what? I don't know why I didn't have the miniatures ready. Give me a minute. I'm going to move away slowly. And I'm going to show some of the miniatures that you'll be able to paint from the tutorial. No, what? I don't think we've had any lag issues. What's the difference between thinning with the medium you used and thinning paint with water? Good question. So if I thin thing, so the only time I would thin with water is glazing and just generally using paint. I would tend to use a medium, like a lamy medium or contrast medium, when it's more of a wash or a contrast paint. Because when you use water, it breaks up the pigment more. So let's imagine all this is your pigment. So your pigment is basically just, it's like making a powdered drink. And your medium is the solution that this pigment sits in. And it's kind of designed to evenly spread your pigment around. Now with contrast paint, there's going to be different sizes of pigment. Which means it's going to behave differently because it's heavier or lighter. So the heavier pigment is going to tend to sort of run off into the recesses, whereas the lighter pigment is going to be, it's going to more sit on the flatter areas, if that makes sense. But the mediums are there to accommodate this. Whereas water, it's very fluid, it's very viscous, I suppose is the word. And your pigments, it's going to get more chaotic. And you're going to get more random patches of pigment. So the one of the biggest problems you'll find with water is, let's say I use water instead of a medium there, you'll get these things called tide marks, where at the edge of where that contrast finishes, you'll get a very noticeable line where the pigment is sort of flowed to that edge. And you'll see this in when people paint watercolor, you'll see that around the edge it's always darker rather than in the middle because they've used water. and that's because the water runs off too easily, whereas the medium, it kind of has a bit of friction, a bit of texture to it, so it's less likely to sort of move about a lot, disturbing that pigment. That's the best way that's how I taught myself the difference. And the reason it's okay to use water for glazing is because with glazing you're using very thin layers, so there's not much water there to begin with, and it should dry off pretty quickly. But obviously you can use mediums or glaze medium for glazing, but that's why I tend to use Lamy medium or contrast medium for washes and contrasts to thin them down, because it just means it still behaves in a way you expect it to, whereas water will completely change how it works and you won't get the desired effect. Because if water didn't affect the paint, then you would just put the pigment in water and that would be your paint. But just because of the way water works, that's how it is. Hopefully that makes sense. We're getting some big questions tonight, aren't we? So yeah, that's why I've just put my thumb. I do that all the time. Do you know when you just accidentally lean on your palette? A Dawson, working on jump pack intercessors. I do like all the... I know like Primaris don't technically exist anymore. They're all Space Marines, but I do like all like the Scouts and the new jump pack guys. Eric, I'm working on Legion of the Damned Space Marines. I kit bashed and sculpted. I'd like to see those. Email me. Contrast paint flows differently to normal paint. A medium is just the paint without the pigment. Exactly. Just about finished a Swarm Lord. I've been painting, just need to do the base and maybe some blood effects. Nice. I want to paint a Swarm Lord in the more modern scheme. So if I was doing a Swarm Lord, I'd follow a lot of what I show how to do the winged prime. Calrash, thank you very much for the €5. It's really appreciated. Thank you very much. But yeah, hopefully that helped. But that's why you would use a medium. As Stephen says, it's paint without the colour. Again, you can use water to thin contrast paints and washes down, but it's not going to behave. It's not going to behave itself, basically. Hal Haggis finished up the Nurgle Lord of Blights this morning. Started a 1K Sins Exalted Sorcerer this afternoon. Currently working on all the gold trim. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to painting all the trim for the Chaos Marine tutorials I'm about to do. Dusty 787, would Vallejo Metallic Natural Steel be a good colour to airbrush the undercoat for Grey Knights? You need to be careful. Oh, we're getting lag again. Give me a minute. So you need to be careful using the metallic colours through an airbrush. I'll be right back. Yes, I know there's no memory card. Okay. So I don't know if these are the ones you're using. So I use the Vallejo metals when I'm painting non-Games Workshop miniatures. And I wouldn't use these as an undercoat. I'll treat these as a layer paint. Let's give me a second, guys. Let's just I'll let the stream catch up with itself. I'll have to ask someone about what is causing this issue, because I didn't have it before. It's because I got up. Okay. Are we good? I'm gonna leave the face cam off. I will try and get this sorted for next week. I'll message some people in the know. But yeah, I've got some of the Vallejo metallics and these are great, and I use these when I'm not painting miniatures, so I'll use these for scale modeling, but I wouldn't use these for undercoating because they're quite thick. As well, I wouldn't run these through an airbrush because you'll ruin your airbrush just because of the flecks of metal. These actually work best brush painted. They work so well just brush painting them. And I don't even thin these down. I just paint these. I just brush paint straight from the when I've decanted it. Now, I've not necessarily thought about using these for grey nights though, but that's quite an interesting idea. Let me know if you can hear me properly, or if my mic's lagging as well. Sorry everyone. It's only been like 2 or 3 streams. It's really frustrating me. I thought I might have sorted the issue out. I'll definitely try just going down to 720 next week. So hopefully you heard all of that. As I say, I've got I use these guys. I think they work best just brush painting them rather than through an airbrush, in my experience, because once you put these through an airbrush, it's really hard to clean out the airbrush basically. So if you want to get a second airbrush, like a cheaper airbrush, it might be a good idea, but they work really well just brush painted as they are without being thinned. Oh, an update as well. I used the Tamiya Mark Fit Strong. So this is a transfer or a decal solution to dissolve the decal or thin the decals. It does work really, really well. I wouldn't use it for Games Workshop transfers though. This is very obviously, you might be able to get like the non-strong version, but I'm going to use this over Microset and Microsol for my scale models, because one application, like literally 20 minutes later, it's like the same amount of work you'd spend using the Microsol for like 3 hours, and it's so easy. But as I say, this is very strong. I wouldn't use this for Games Workshop miniatures, because you are going to ruin your paintwork underneath, even if you have put a varnish down. Because the only reason it's worked with the scale models I've done is because it's a thick, it's quite a substantial, it's a substantial layer of gloss varnish to protect the paint underneath, which you would do for scale modeling anyway. But you don't really do that for miniature painting, so I'd stick with the micro set for that. I'll show you what I've been doing. So you won't be able to see it perfectly, but because I've applied a wash over this now, this just needs a satin varnish. So over the gloss varnish, these are the transfers I use the Mark Set Strong over. And you can see it's completely got rid of the film. And you can see how well the transfers have gone into the recesses as well. And sort of gone down. And you would definitely be able to see a lot of silver in if you didn't use a solution. So yeah, it's worked really nicely. So this is just the Swift on a 72-inch Supermarine Swift. Airfix. So I like to build Airfix, as you know. So yeah, the Tamiya marker set is really good. So before all of that, let me just see if I've missed anything. Yeah, so Dusty. Yeah, though I love the Vallejo metallic colours, but they work really well just being brush painted on. I know you would need a separate airbrush because you won't be able to clean it out after you've run them through it. Yeah, so I'll have a look. I might have to sort something out of my laptop. So these are the Skaven that are painted for the video that's coming out tomorrow evening. And everything, I've painted these using the starter paint set. And the only extra paints I suggested getting other than the paint set is Reikland Flesh Shade, Norn Oil, Stormhost Silver, and Lamy Medium. And Lamy Medium for a lot of the reasons that I talked about earlier. So there was nothing in the kit where that was good for highlighting metals, so that's why I brought in Stormhost Silver, and I was able to mix the Retributor Arm and Stormhost Silver together to get a lighter gold for the Stormcast anyway. The Reikland Flesh Shade was usable for the Stormcast, so both the Stormcast video and the Skaven video use exactly the same paints to make it, because obviously I just assume that people are going to buy the starter set, so they only need to buy the basic paint set and the extra couple of paints, and you'd be able to paint both the Stormcast and Skaven. That was the idea. You do have to mix a few colours together, but that's fine. I think a lot of people expect to come into the hobby mixing paints anyway. It's only people like me who are lazy, who don't like to mix paints. So yeah, so things I've been able to achieve. So the Reikland Flesh. So with these guys, you don't necessarily have to use the Reikland Flesh Shade and Norn Oil. The Agrax Earth Shade is actually enough. But because you're going to have it anyway, I definitely wanted to use it in the build and the paint scheme. Again, it's a lot of dry brushing, a lot of very basic beginner techniques that I feel like anyone can sort of jump into the hobby and do. Some of the cool things I was able to achieve were the 2 washes. So I do a verdigris wash, so that's like the teal colours I've got on the metal here, and that's mixing a couple of paints and mixing it with the lamy medium. And you wouldn't be able to get this effect if you mixed it with the water. We also create like a rust wash with a couple of the paints and the lamy medium as well. But again, it's all very achievable, very basic techniques, just using very minimal products. And I'll just show as well. So stuff like this bell is quite dark. But it's still Retributor armor. But the only difference is it's had multiple layers of Agrax Earthshade used over it to age it. And same with the horns is here. You've got a gradient, and all it is just Agrax Earthshade layered up, so it's destroyed, and then I've done another layer a bit further up, let that dry, and so on and forth. Well, you've got dirt and grime on the bottom of the material, that's just using the shades as well. And with the Stormhouse Silver as well, you can age the metals by just doing rough highlights rather than clean highlights. It just sort of creates like chips and aging. Warlock Engineer. Again, it's just base colours, washes, and some simple highlights. And then you've got like the basic Skaven guy. So the video is about 25 minutes long. About the same length of the the Stormcast tutorial. So that's out tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, the usual time that I release on a Sunday. So hopefully you're there and watch it. Because you'll learn a lot, even if you don't paint Skaven. These videos will help you just sort of get a better idea of getting to paint. Andre, greetings, hello, welcome to the stream. I haven't got the face cam at the moment because everything's lagging. So I'm gonna have to sort that out for the next stream. So what we're doing is we're figuring out how to paint my Chaos Warriors, and we've just been sort of figuring out what we can use to paint different things. The red contrast is dried on here. We're definitely going to be needing to do a second coat of that. But I think 2 coats. I'm wondering if I could do the mix first and then just do bowl red. We've been talking a lot about theory and a lot about technical stuff more tonight than anything. It's been quite useful. It's all stuff that could actually go in a video. So here what I'm doing is I'm treating this more like a glaze rather than applying it again. So this is a really thin layer now, just to deepen the red. So when you, even with the acrylic paints, the red acrylics, they're very desaturated when they're dry. they're not very deep. So when you look at a paint like this, it's very rich. But when you use a red, it dries very pastely, and that's because of the pigment. So you can get around that with a glaze. And I'll show this in... What video would I have used it in? I don't think I used it in my original Blood Angels tutorial. I would have done it. But I don't think I did it for the most recent Blood Angel tutorial. That's almost dry, but it's made the red a bit richer. I think just a glaze of like a thin layer of that over our mix, I think that's gonna work. Stephen, do I use a hairdryer? You know what, for the past 10 years I always think to myself I should get a hairdryer, but I still haven't bought myself a hairdryer, so I just sit there waiting. I've kind of told myself that it'll change the way it dries, but I think if you do it properly, it shouldn't affect it too much. But I've just gotten used to not using one now, so I just sort of go without. But I know a lot of people do. But I'll usually get on with something else when I'm waiting for things to dry, rather than sit there with a hairdryer. I know you'd have to set it to like a cooler setting, because it's not the heat that dries it, it's the movement of air that evaporates the moisture. What were we doing? Okay, let me get my pen. So with the red material, we're looking at Blood Angels and Baal, and then after you're looking at a Baal red glaze. For flesh and skin, we're using Gulliman's thinly. Oh no, I don't want to put thinly. Gulliman's, I'll just put Gulliman. I'll know what I mean, because that's generally how I use contrasts anyway. I'm quite conservative when layering with them. So the only difference between that and that, just where it's settled more into the recesses. For the boots, I already know what mix I'm going to use, because I use it for Imperial Fists. I've moved everything now. So we want Cygor Brown and Gorgrunter Fur, because this is quite dark and this is a light brown, and I kind of want to meet like an in-between. Stephen, I use a food dehydrator, throw a bunch of minis in at a time, but that's usually for entire layers, not just bits at a time. That's crazy. Where would you buy a food dehydrator? Make sure you can see everything. Just doing the pigment bit. Don't know why I scrumpled that up. Can you believe we've been streaming almost 2 hours? That's crazy. I feel like we haven't done anything. Yeah, so after the Skaven video that's coming out tomorrow, I'm doing a Paint Your First Miniatures Age of Sigmar edition. But that will be just using the paint set. Yeah, Kalrash says you're being giving them the James Bond villain treatment. So this is the mix. That's quite dark, to be fair. I feel like with the Gorgrunter, it's too light. So this is just the Gorgrunter on its own. It's quite a thin contrast. But I think the Cygor Brown is quite dark on its own. But I think it overpowers the Gorgrunter too much. So it might be twice the amount of Gorgrunter that we end up using. Yeah, because there's not much. So when you use the Cygor on its own, it's not much different to the mix. So we'll do double the amount of Gorgrunter. See what that's like. Yeah, so that's a bit better. Well, that's a really, really nice colour. That's like mahogany. So that's 2 parts Gorgrunter. And this is going to be for the boots and belts and straps. I need to go to the toilet, so we're gonna go have a little 5-minute break, everybody, and then we'll be right back. I'm back. Hello, hello. Sorry about that. Who said my workstation was nice and clean? It isn't now. I've got so messy over here now. Okay. Andy just built some Necropolis Stalkers with my lad. Have I ever done any of these? I haven't. They'd be quite interesting. I think there's still some Necron tutorials in me, because I really enjoyed doing the Doomstalker tutorial. Because I haven't really covered doing the blades just yet, so that's definitely on the wish list. So boots. And belts. That's going to be Cygor plus 2 Gorgrunter. There's a really weird, there's an odd thing about these Chaos Warrior miniatures. Oh my days. Why can't you just focus? There we go. Oh, they're the Oziark Bone Reapers. I do want to do Bone Reapers, but that's why I'm starting to do Age of Sigmar, so I'm doing Age of Sigmar tutorials. But yes, but again, Bone Reapers are on my wish list to do. In the helmet, they've got little eyes. So you've got to paint, so it'll probably be the flesh, red for the eyes, and then paint the helmet, which is quite a little frustrating detail to have to paint, rather than just having recesses for the helmet, which would have been fine. Even for this guy, he's got little eyeballs in his helmet. Ruin my new map. If you didn't know, a good thing to use to get paint off your map is you can get the white cleaning sponges that just use water. They're great for getting paint off tabletop surfaces, etc., rather than scrubbing away, because they're just, the white sponges, they're slightly adhesive. So they kind of act like polishers, but they're great for getting paint off tabletops and mats. One of the things I'm not sure about, because on some miniatures you've got this scale detail. I don't know. I don't really want to decide how I'm going to paint that yet. Because some just have straight up like leather or fur, which is fine. I might do this sort of leather, snakebite leather. But I'm not sure. I don't know if I want to treat it like they're lizard men, so do like a teal colour. That's still up in the air. But other than that, oh yeah, the wraps. I think I'm gonna just do straight up skeleton horde for the handle wraps, because I think the details would be lost if I did them red, or even a dark red. I think they'd just be lost. But because there's already a lot of like bone colours darted around the miniature anyway, it'll sort of match that aesthetic and just add to that. But yeah, and obviously the arm is going to be Black Legion, so I'll do like 2 layers of Black Legion, and then I'll finish with the gold and silver details. We'll see if we can get started on this little guy. We'll probably go for about another half an hour. So, we've got our bone mix already. And this is just gonna, for this guy, it's probably just going to be on the horns. Because a lot of work for the horns is going to come with the highlights. And again, you don't have to be neat for this. And you kind of want to make sure you're using enough so it sort of goes into those recesses. So it's as easy as that. And that shouldn't take too long to dry. Well, that's got Lamy medium, so it will take a little bit of time to dry. Yeah, I do like the bone reapers. They're definitely on the list for Age of Sigmar tutorials for me to do, along with Iron Jaws, the Night Haunt, Sylvaneth. And I'm quite interested in doing the new Wolf Riders as well. So the next detail we talked about painting was actually going to be the flesh. So Guilliman flesh. And this is just going to be on the the third decoration where there's actually no fur. But this is going to be spread quite thinly. But just take your time. And you kind of want to go into the fur details. If you think you got too much, I'd just sort of pick it up with your brush. So this is where it could all actually not work, and all that work was for nothing. But it's still better than trying to make it up as you go along. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect. I feel like I've got the spirit of Bob Ross with me. Happy little accidents. If you feel like you've got too much contrast on your brush, just sort of give it a dab. Next we're going to use titanium white. Yeah, so it's kind of overlapped with the bits of fur, but that's going to be fine. It's a good job I wrote down what colours we're using because I forgot already. So the furs are going to be a skeleton horde and snakebite leather mix. I'm just checking to see how this is the bones drying. Yeah, it's fine. It's just this is just taking a bit long to dry because we used Lamy medium rather than contrast medium when I originally made that wash. So this is an equal amount of both. Don't do what I do and go straight into your pots with our happy little chaos warrior. It's his little world. You can sort of judge whether you want to spread it about or not. You just want to get a nice layer. He's pulled up quite a bit there, so we just pick that with a brush. Again, this is going to be highlighted. With the fur, it's most likely going to have a little bit of a dry brush. Am I liking this brown now it's going on the fur? Not at the moment, but that's okay. And while I'm doing this fur, let me tell you about joining Patreon and the membership to help support TableTopReady and all the tutorials I do. So today, I created a new tier for channel membership, which is £1 cheaper than it was before, just to match the pricing for the Patreon. But the old tier is still up there just because I couldn't edit the pricing for that. But with both Patreon and channel membership, you get access to the Discord. You get tutorials early. So for the Skaven tutorial, supporters were able to watch it from yesterday when I finished it. So as soon as I finish a tutorial, it gets uploaded and shared out to the supporters. And usually it was usually up 3 days before it goes out to YouTube. But I try and when I'm not sick, which happened last week, I try and do regular updates to how I'm getting on. So you'll see what I'm working on, and you'll see sort of like the progression of what I'm painting as well, and get update pictures. So obviously it takes about a week to paint miniatures. And I'll tend to sort of talk about my plans for the channel as well and what I'm thinking about. I do like this colour, and I quite like, I don't know, we'll see what this colour's like with the rest of the, you see here you've got like the flesh here, so I'll have to make sure We need to make sure we get that in a minute. Is this the right colour for Chaos Warriors? I don't know, but it's the right colour for our little happy Chaos Warrior. I do have plans to do supporter only live streams in the future, but there isn't enough supporters at the moment. So that's a goal towards the end of the year. As well, when there's more supporters, it just means I can start shifting power to making choices of tutorials, what tutorials are made. It's just that there's just not enough of a pool of people to be able to speak on the behalf of the whole community, if that makes sense. It would be unfair to give like a small handful of people that choice. And I'm thinking as well that I keep dropping my brush on the palette and it's getting everywhere. How am I feeling? You know what? It's okay. It's okay. I think this will work when all the, it doesn't look, it's a nice colour. And I think it'll work when the rest of the colours go down. Eric the Gorper, I scooped my paint out with a metal medical scoop and placed it on my wet palette. Yeah, I need to start picking up better habits of how I take my paint from the pots. George, right, I've never done it, but I imagine dry brushing is really good for fur. I have a ball mount for an orc shaman, and I'm thinking of doing the fur that way. Yeah, not to talk about the Skaven again, obviously. But this is that's dry brushed. So dry brushing is great for fur. How do you push past the ugly stage when painting something for the very first time, like with no recipe? Just finish the miniature. I know it doesn't look right because it's not finished, so there's no context. But once, because it's a very vibrant colour, but the red and the black will knock it back. And then when you've put highlights on it, it'll look good. But I still think that was the right choice. But yeah, just push through it. Because it won't look right until it's finished. Rolando Ratas. Hey, I'm starting a Warriors of Chaos army for Old World, but just out of interest, why are you priming them white instead of black? So I've undercoated these with Wraithbone, and I've undercoated it with a light colour because I'm painting with contrast paints, which need a light colour for them to work how they're intended to. So if I tried doing this over, say, like a black undercoat using a contrast, you wouldn't see any difference. You just get like a really dark brown. But when you use a light colour, you'll get all these highlights and variations in tone. For example, the contrast paints. But if you were using your general acrylic paints, then you could undercoat them whatever colour you'd like. Nathan, do you have a regular time day for live streams, or does it just vary? So moving forward, it's always going to be at 6 o'clock in the evening, and it's going to alternate between Saturday and Sunday. If there's a video out on the Sunday, so tomorrow for example, I'll be doing the live stream on a Saturday. But when it's a weekend where there's not a video, I'll live stream on the Sunday. And because I release a video alternative weekends, it's always going to be like Saturday, Sunday, then Saturday, then Sunday, then Saturday, then Sunday. Hal Haggis, thank you very much for joining us in the stream. It's been a lot of fun. Look after yourself. Yeah, so the next stream after today is going to be next weekend on Sunday, because there's not going to be a video next week as I start my editing journey for the next video. So what typically happens is I'll spend a week preparing, writing the script and painting and filming, and then the week after will be when I edit and do all that, the back end stuff. But I've made the decision to always to start at 6 o'clock, because I tried starting at 5 o'clock, but it seemed like everybody came in later, sort of halfway through. So I feel like later's just a bit better anyway. I think as well what's putting me off is just this, but I think the flesh colour actually works anyway. But we've got this little bit in here that we need to do flesh, so we'll just quickly do that. Oh, did everybody see my short for "There's Nothing Wrong for Citadel Paint Pots"? That got a lot of comments, but I knew it would. And I'm going to be honest, that's why I made the short. Look how messy my hand is. I'm not usually that messy. I don't advocate for painting on your hand. It's not good for your skin. And I've got sensitive, dry skin. Yeah, so I got a lot of comments. But that was the plan. Because I know a lot of people hate on the Citadel paint pots, which is fine. And I didn't really say anything too controversial in the short. I just told people to close the lid when they're using it, and it should help. But people went off on it, calling me names. It's like, my god. So I'm not sure. I know, so Eastern EST I know is 5 hours behind, and I think the West Coast is 12 hours. So if it's 6 o'clock in the evening here, I haven't got my phone on me, so I'll check. So if it was 6 o'clock here, EST would be 1 o'clock in the afternoon on the Eastern Seaboard. And then it'll probably be in the morning for like on the West Coast. Oh, so yeah, Stevens. What time's it here? It's like 8:30. Yes, it's 8:30 here now. But I'll always put in the morning of the live stream, I'll put up like a placeholder where you can click notify me, and I'll let you know when the stream starts. Yeah, so But that's how quick, like, doing that first shouldn't have taken that long. I was just sort of, because it's just the way I'm holding it, it's quite far away and I don't have much control. But painting with contrast is usually pretty quick. Let's try out. So you've got a little rune trinket on the front there. The only thing I have about people just hating on like the Citadel pots is that they'll elevate dropper bottles which are just as bad, in my opinion. If you ask me, the old Citadel pots with just a basic pot with a lid is the best way to go. Like the current, like Mr. Hobby pots or the Tamiya pots. I don't know what's wrong with that design. I know Games Workshop were going with this sort of tongue design, so you have a like a shelf to sort of get the paint rather than dipping your paint in the pot. But with the lids, you could just you shook it up and there was a little well, and you turn the lid over and there was paint in the well. And you didn't get it drying up. It was probably just cheaper to make these pots though. But that's what I would do. I'll go back to just a separate lid and pot action. Again, with this, you want to just make it. You want to apply it quite thinly because it's quite a strong colour. Again, there won't be any problem because it's going to be black around it. Obi Stonk Kenobi, evening. Yeah, people get really passionate about opinions. Not even about the hobby, but just opinions in the hobby. I always leave my pots open up. Do what I say, not what I do. I think the nozzle of a dropper bottle is easier just to dab clean rather than wipe the whole rim of a Citadel pot, but that's probably just me. No, I agree with you. It is... To clean a dropper bottle is easy. It's easier to clean a dropper bottle than it is to clean a Citadel pot. I'll give you that. I use both dropper bottles and Citadel pots, but I would never transfer paint from a Citadel pot to a dropper bottle, and I did, and you can look in my old videos that I did, and I absolutely regretted it so much that I just bought a whole new load of paints. It was that bad. Obi Stonks Kenobi, good luck. When I say I regretted it, I mean it was a really good idea. But that's another thing. It's just another. It's just the hassle having to transfer them as well. Especially every time you buy a new paint, you have to go through that whole process. I just haven't got the patience. Let's do the Cygor Brown and Gorgrunter. The issue I was having is, because what you need to do with the dropper bottles, you need to put flow improver into the paint. The problem with flow improver is the paint takes forever to dry, and it was affecting the way the paint worked and my ability to use it. And I found I was using the paint quicker as well because I was obviously using too much out of the dropper bottle. But again, these are all issues that I was personally having. You might not have any of these issues. It's just a personal preference. You do you. Yeah, Stephen, you may be right. It's just the dropper bottles off Amazon that I bought. I'm not really sure of the difference, but that was really the only option at that time of what you could buy and what was on Amazon. I've still got some of the empty pots. But I just had too many issues with it. And I just won't recommend doing it for anyone if they ask. But again, it's just like a personal choice. But Obi Stonks, you'll have to let me know how you get on with it after like a couple of months. It's always good getting a different opinion. Close them. So this is our mahogany mix. I think that might actually need a bit more Cygor brown. I don't even think I added any. Yeah, that's better. If I was doing a large amount of miniatures, I'd pre-mix a lot of this. But there isn't that many miniatures in the army, so I'm okay just mixing it as and when. Now, using these contrasts is a personal preference, because again, these are very vibrant colours. And using contrast is a style choice, as well as being able to paint them quite quickly choice. Because I want them to be a very retro feel, have a retro sort of vibrant feel to them. Obi Stonks, I use flow improver and airbrush thinner to thin it down. I just have to watch how much water I use to thin it on the palette, as it's already, that was another issue I was having. Was having to thin it with water as well. Because the issue as well, what I was having was trying to teach people to use these paints in tutorials, but teach them as if I hadn't used the flow improver. But that's a very good point you've just made as well. It was all about, I'd done it before I started the channel, but I still had them when I was, I had the channel, and I felt like I wasn't able to teach properly in this way. And I felt that if people saw that I had dropper bottles made up, I didn't want to set that expectation. And my whole point was to teach people how to use paints is if you're buying them from the store. So ultimately, I just made the choice to just not use the dropper bottles. For anyone watching now, and for anyone watching on the VOD and you're still here, I'd really like it if you dropped in the comments of this live stream some good goals for memberships. So at the moment we've got, I think I've got 17 members, it says there. And when I mean by goals, I mean just like, so let's say we reach 50 memberships, I'll paint a chaos, not even an Imperial Knight, for example. or it could be when I reach 100 members, we do a paint along on live stream, like a true paint along from start to finish, rather than just sort of showing examples. Dropper bottles are good for airbrushing as well. I think that's also the motivation for a lot of painters. Again, I agree with that as well. I used to airbrush with the paints as well, and I used to pre-mix into dropper bottles, and that was worth it. That was worth it, because you need to thin them down anyway. So I'd prepare a whole pot's worth of paint for airbrushing. But again, I don't do that now, just because of what I do with the channel, and I just mainly brush paint. So again, to be fair, half of the choices were made because of the channel and how I want to teach people, but the other half is just convenience and just how the paint behaves with the dropper bottles. Do you know what's catching me off with all these colours? If it was normal acrylic paint, they'd all be very muted and they'd all work together. And obviously I'm working from a light undercoat as well, so there's a lot of contrast. But that's why it's good to finish a miniature, to sort of get an idea of what it's going to look like. Yeah, I know the video's choppy. It's been like that all night. It's a recent thing. I'm going to have to look into it. I thought I might have sorted it out before tonight, but that's why I haven't got the Facecam on. Medieval gaming, which Chaos God would I follow? My Chaos God is Tzeentch, and it's always been Tzeentch. I'm someone who likes mystery, and someone who I feel would seek power through those sort of means. And I like arcane stuff and magic, so Tzeentch would be my choice. Andy, there is so much detail on a lot of these Games Workshop models. It's almost like you have to use contrast paints on them unless you have many hours to spend on each one. Yeah, that's why I like using contrast paints, mainly for my own armies, because I don't have a lot of time to paint. Jamie Howard, am I planning on going to this year's Games Expo? Yes, I'll go to the games, but I'll go to the games, but I go to the Games Expo every year, is what I'm trying to say. When it's on, I love it. I like sitting outside and watching the reenactments, and like I think last year they just did a big battle royale. It's always enjoyable. I've never entered Golden Demon, and I probably never will. I'm going to be honest. Maybe when I'm retired, but I don't think I'll ever retire. I just don't have it in me. I enjoy painting to the level I paint at and making these videos. I feel like if I'm going to enter Golden Demon, I have to dedicate myself to that. Right, I think we'll finish up with the red on the capes and then we'll call it a night. It's getting quite late now. I'm quite surprised I've managed to last quite long, but my voice is going now. I can feel myself slowing down. I hope we've all been learning a lot tonight. Been a fun stream, apart from the technical difficulties. Did we say an equal mix of both? Yeah, an equal mix of both. You can look, guys, I'm very messy when I'm painting. It's true. This is the true me. I never wanted you to see. Are they hosting a painting competition this year? I've never, do you know what? I'm not entering Golden Demon, but I might have a look at that. Medieval gaming, do I plan on doing a Thousand Suns painting tutorial? I do, yes. So with the Emperor's Children coming out, I actually want to do a tutorial for each of the specific god-specific legions. So I'm planning on doing Berserkers first. So that'll be next month. And then it's likely to be Thousand Suns, then Death Guard, then Emperor's Children. Oh, Duncan is the judge. So is it a tooth and coat painting competition? Or is it a Games Expo competition? But thanks for letting me know, that is interesting. Yeah, so Sir Coates, that's Duncan's mascot. So that is his painting competition. I'll have a look at that tomorrow. But I'm glad you said. Thanks. That is interesting. What I don't want to happen is the same thing that's been happening with Golden Demon, where everyone complains after the fact because they didn't win. That's the only thing that puts me off entering a painting competition. It was just kind of disappointing to see in a lot of YouTube videos with the title, I spent 500 hours. Like I wasted 500 hours painting a miniature, which is a bit unfair. Because it's not a waste of time. Yeah, I think Duncan might be, because Duncan's usually there every year as well, so it's probably a bit of both. It probably is mostly his, and it'll just be hosted at the Games Expo. But I think he'll do a good job, to be fair. He's a very savvy-minded person, is Duncan. I don't even think it's about snobbery, but I feel like some people just expected to do better than they thought they were going to do, which is what it basically comes down to. You can't be like, I've put this much work in, so I deserve a certain level. It's like, it's fair game. It's a competition. And something like the Golden Demon is probably the biggest international miniature painting competition, Warhammer based painting competition in the world. Like, the best miniature painters enter it. Like, you're talking people who set the standard for miniature painting in the industry. I mean, what? Because last year, Infernal Brush won it, for example. He obviously used to work for Games Workshop with Heavy Metal. Yeah, it's an experience to enjoy and sort of get to talk to people about what you've painted. It's an experience. Do you know what? I would want to enter Golden Demon just for the experience, because I've never done it before. And it's something I've always wanted to do, even as a kid. Do you know what? I should have painted the red before the boots. Never mind. We won. We can always repaint the boots. Again, you don't even need to be as careful as I'm being, because you can neaten up. And a lot of the colours that are going over this are going to be metals and blacks. So it's going to be easy to cover up the mistakes. But that's why it's a good idea to do the red quite early on. Because a lot of people, when approaching this, are like, I'm going to go straight into doing the black armour. Didn't the box art style win the latest Golden Demon? I don't really follow it, but I saw, yeah. So Stephen showed me that an Ultramarine, someone followed an Infernal Brush tutorial. The guy who won Golden Demon, they followed one of his tutorials and won one of the categories with an Ultramarine. But fair play to him, like, it was his ability that won the competition. You can't take that away from anyone. Just because of what he's painted. He's still demonstrated his ability. And he wouldn't have won that trophy if he didn't deserve it. Even if it was an unexpected win. We should be out supporting and celebrating these wins. Not complaining and moaning about it. Because I'm going to be honest, I feel like a lot of people can be easily put off this hobby at the moment, which is unfortunate. Just with all like the negativity in it. But saying that, YouTube and social media again so much better, and creating a great sort of environment for people to get into the hobby, which I'm loving. There's so many new channels out there. They're all so positive and they're creative and they're doing new things in the hobby, which I'm loving. Yeah, exactly. Stephen says not just any old artist though, somebody who can really paint and entered in other categories too. Exactly. It's just I just feel like the expectations weren't met for some people and they were just a bit upset. But again, you have to understand that a lot of these videos are made because it got clicks and got views, because people like negative opinions and they'll click on a video. Yeah, so Steven's posted the link to the miniature. That's quite handy, thank you, Stephen. Yeah, you can post links, which is good. So once that's dry, we'll do a quick glaze of just bole red. I'll finish this test miniature throughout the week, and we'll have a look at this in the next stream. And I'll even do some highlights. Now again, the highlight, I'm not going to be doing a lot of highlights. I'll highlight the fur. I'll highlight where it's necessary. Stephen has the power. You've got more power than me, because I don't even think I can post links. But again, I think because I'm operating from OBS rather than YouTube itself. But yeah, I'm not trying to like naysay anybody. I'm just saying it's just I don't like the aftermath of the Golden Demon competition. It could have been such a positive experience for everybody, but it just feels like a lot of people came away from that kind of like just bringing it down and taking like the victory and effort and hard work from the people who won trophies and the Slayer sword. One of the things I would love to have, I'm not sure the Infernal Brush guy. I'd love to be able to just have him on here and have a little bit of a chat about painting miniatures. I don't know if Tabletop Ready's got that much clout yet. Bogdanov. Bogdano. I'm sorry, I can't. It's that time of night. My brain can't register anything. Oh, did you use Valeni ink from Grimdark Compendium? I didn't. So at the moment, what I'm using contrast paints. So on Tabletop Ready, I'll tend to stick to using Citadel Paints. But obviously, I'm more about the techniques and showing people how to use paints. It's not what the paints aren't necessarily important. But yeah, I'm using contrast paints, which are pretty much inks. So we're just coming up with a colour scheme for my Warriors of Chaos army. Seeing if that's dried. I just did a cardinal sin there. I touched the contrast paint before it fully dried. Oh well. We'll just let that dry and then we'll do the glaze. But yeah, Infernal Brush is one of the people I'd love to have a chat with about the hobby in general. Completely off topic, but something that drives me mad is when YouTube start the video with loud bang or other loud noises. Please never do that. I don't worry about that. I think I've kind of got my formula down. So you know, it's like I'll tell you my secret. Since there's only a few of us left now at the end of the stream, I'll always start the videos with a Mr. Beast intro where you talk about what you're going to be watching through the video. It's called a hook. And I changed that I only started doing that a year ago. But that improved the retention by like 5%, which is massive in the YouTube world. So if you ever make YouTube videos, one of the big things you'll need to do is to get not only people to click on your video, but to stay and watch your video. Your biggest drop off is going to be within the first 30 seconds to 45 seconds. So you need to do as much as you can for them to not click away. Because there are going to be a lot of people who click on your video accidentally, or a video might autoplay, for example, as well. So anything around a 6% to 8% retention rate is actually really, really good. Just some inside baseball for you. But yeah, I'm very annoyed. I'm undiagnosed autistic, and I've got a noise sensitivity. So most of the day I'm wearing earplugs anyway. So I'll never put those in. I'll never do anything like that in a video. Do you know what I wish I had right now? A hairdryer. I have got a radiator though. So I can let that cape dry before I put the bowl red on. So do we think The Emperor's Children is going to be up for pre-order tomorrow? I've got a sneaking suspicion it is. I don't know what else it would be. I've noticed as well that high elf videos have been very popular on YouTube. So I'm tempted to do a high elf tutorial in the future. I am still here. See, it's frustrating not having the face cam, because it looks like there's nothing going on. I still haven't highlighted the Imperial Fist Terminators yet. I think I might find some time to do that this week as well. So this week's goal: film and paint for the next video. I'll finish doing this test model for the Chaos Warriors, and I want to highlight my Imperial Fists Terminators. Do I play any Warhammer games? I play the tabletop games, so I mainly play Old World at the moment. Do I play Warhammer computer games? I used to. I just don't get time to play games now. I'm going to be honest. Just recently, if I get an hour in the evening, I'll either play Minecraft, or I might play something like Slay the Spire on my Switch. But I only tend to have about an hour of maybe time before I go to sleep. But otherwise, I don't really find the time. But yeah, I mainly play Old World at the minute. If you're talking about playing the actual tabletop game, I do want to try and get games of Age of Sigmar in and 40k in by the end of the year. I just need to find people to play games with. There aren't that many. I mean, I don't drive at the moment, so it's hard for me to get out there to clubs and stuff, because there isn't much going on in commentary. So as soon as I get driving, I can get out and play more games. Okay, so radiator has worked. Let's do some bowl red. So I'll do this and I think we'll finish up. It's 3 hours. Longest stream yet, everybody. Thank you all very much for joining me in this stream. Is this where the magic happens? I haven't had many subscribers towards the end of the stream, which is quite unusual. I'm not complaining, I'm just making an observation. Or I might not have I might have turned the alerts off accidentally. I was trying to sort out the lag. So here I'm just doing a thin layer of bowl red, just to give us a richer red colour. And just to help with that patchiness, I think. But you're always going to get a bit of patchiness, as I keep saying, but that's fine. It's our little world. Again, tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock in the evening, UK time, is when the Scathing beginner tutorial is out. So make sure you go and watch it. Leave me a nice comment and like the video. Because I'll tell you what, liking a video and leaving a comment is the most important thing. The best way to support your favourite creators, because it affects how YouTube shares your video, because it all counts as interactions, and the more interactions a video gets, YouTube shares your video with more people. I really like that red. And it works really well with that brown, because both colours are very vibrant. I think that brown wouldn't have worked as well if that red was darker. But because they're at the same level of vibrancy, it really works, even with the flesh colour. And I can already tell when the armour's black and with the highlights, it's going to look really nice. Again, I know that was a lot of work, but well, to come up with choosing the colours, but I think it's worth spending the time thinking about it, because I can tell you, like, because we've mixed colours and approached it in a more methodical way, it's already going to look different to what other people produce. Jamie Howard, what would you say are your personal favourite models or chapter to paint? Orcs are my favourite faction. And race. Just because I believe I'm a bit of an orc. Terminators are my favourite unit. Style-wise, lore-wise, aesthetic-wise. Imperial Fists are my favourite chapter. What else? Tzeentch is my favourite Chaos God. I would say, like, Chaos were my favourite army in the younger days of me, and when I started doing Warhammer. They were like my first proper army I really got into, and I do want to get back into that. And I have got my Black Legion I'm working on. I need to get that out again. But I do like Chaos. I think what stops me from doing a Chaos army a lot of the time is painting the trim. And they don't have access to as much cool stuff as the Space Marines a lot of the time. I don't know what my favourite model is. I think that changes. The model that got me into the hobby, when I looked at like the catalogues and pictures, was the old Metal Lord of Change. I think that's why I gravitated towards Tzeentch when I started the hobby, because of that miniature. And I still yet have never owned a Lord of Change or painted one. I didn't do the belt, but that's fine. So the only thing left to do on this guy, oh, I didn't do the loincloth either. I didn't notice that. So that's just going to be red. Someone posted a cool looking Chaos Warrior on the subreddit a while back. Not sure if you've seen it. I have seen it. I did leave a comment and I did upvote it. I did see it. It looked really good. Yeah, there's something about the old miniatures that I think the current ranges just can't replicate. But I don't know what it's like coming into the hobby now, not seeing it before and seeing all these amazing miniatures. Bogdan, you like trim, so you started Adeptus Sororitas and Black Legion. Yeah, there are ways around trim, which I'm going to explore in future videos. Do you know what? I really want to explore doing some Adeptus Sororitas this year as well, or next year. Next year, probably now. So I think there'd be a fun army to get done. And Gene Stealer Cult. Jamie Howard, for me, it was the Dreadnoughts. The Dreadnoughts were amazing. Yeah, they were more like, they did have a toy feel to them. Scary toys, as you say. So that might be it. Whereas these are very detailed. These are definitely miniatures with a purpose. I feel better having started at least painting a Chaos Warrior, because now I've created some momentum for the rest of the army. And with that, I think we're going to end the stream So thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much, Stephen, for helping looking after everybody. And thank you everyone who's joined in, asked a question, participated in the chat. This will be going up as a VOD as usual. Please make sure to like it and leave a comment if you want. You can leave comments or questions in the comments of the live streams, for example, for future live streams, for questions for me to answer. You can tell I'm fading because my brain's I'm just saying words now. But again, thank you very much, everybody. It's been a really enjoyable stream, and I can't believe it's gone over 3 hours. So I hope we've learned a lot. So next stream is going to be next Sunday, a week tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And then again tomorrow night is the Skaven beginner video. So enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hopefully I'm going to spend this week trying to figure out OBS so I can have my face cam still. But thank you everybody, and I'll see you next week.